The message came at midnight, Earth time. Every screen on every human world went dark for 3 seconds. Then the face appeared. It was not a face that humans could easily understand. High Commander Velthus of the Velith Dominion looked like a statue made of living glass. Light moved through his body like blood through veins. His eyes were 2 points of cold blue fire. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of 1,000,000 years. Humans of the Sol System and its colonies, Velthos said, the Galactic Accord has reached a decision. For 3,000 years we have watched your kind spread across the stars. We gave you peace. We gave you time. We hoped you would learn wisdom. You did not. Admiral Tejo stood in the command center of Earth's orbital defense station. Around him, officers stopped their work to watch the alien's message. Some looked afraid. Others looked angry. Tejo kept his face blank and still. Your species breeds too fast, Velthos continued. You take too many worlds. You ask too many questions. You dream too big. The elder races have decided that the experiment of human tolerance has failed. You are a disease that must be stopped before it spreads further. A young officer named Wu Jin clenched his fists at his sides. He wanted to scream at the screen. He wanted to tell this ancient alien that humans were not a disease. They were survivors. They were fighters. But he said nothing. He was just a lieutenant. His words meant nothing to creatures who had ruled the stars before Earth even had oceans. You have 30 of your solar days, Velthus announced. In that time, you will abandon all colony worlds. You will return to your birth planet. You will destroy your warships, your weapons, and your research stations. You will accept monitors from the Accord to ensure you never leave your world again. If you do not comply, we will end your species. This is not a threat. This is a simple fact. You cannot fight us. You cannot hide from us. You cannot run from us. Accept this truth or die. The screen went black. For a long moment, no one in the command center spoke. The silence was heavy and thick, like the air before a storm. Admiral, a voice said finally. It was Biora, the station's chief tactical officer. Her face was pale, but her voice was steady. Our long-range sensors are picking up movement at the edge of the system. Alien fleets are gathering. We count over 4 million warships from 12 different species. 4 million warships. Tejo, let that number sink in. Humanity's entire fleet numbered fewer than 5,000 vessels. Even if every ship fought perfectly, even if every human soldier died bravely, the math was simple. They would be crushed like insects under a boot orders, sir, Wu Jin asked. His voice cracked slightly. He was trying to be brave, but he was scared. They all were. Tejo looked at the young officer. He saw the fear in Wu Jin's eyes. He saw the same fear in every face around him. For 3,000 years, humanity had lived under the shadow of the elder races. They had been told again and again that they were young, weak, and foolish. They had been told that their only hope for survival was to stay quiet and stay small. And most humans had believed it, but not all of them. Lieutenant Tejo said calmly, contact all fleet commanders. Tell them to begin standard defense preparations. Nothing more. Biora frowned. Standard preparations? Admiral, with respect, we need to begin full mobilization. We need to call up every reserve unit, every retired officer, every standard preparations, Tejo repeated. That is my order. He turned and walked toward the door. His officers stared at him with confusion and growing worry. Their admiral was walking away at the moment of their greatest crisis. Had he lost his mind? Had he given up already? At the door, Tejo paused. He did not turn around. I have a meeting to attend, he said. A very old meeting. Then he was gone, 8,000 kilometers below, in a bunker buried beneath mountains that had no name on any map. A woman named Nayang watched the same message on an ancient screen. The bunker was old, built long before the first human touched the stars. Its walls were thick stone and cold metal. Its halls were empty and silent. It had waited here for 3,000 years. Nayang was 60 years old, but she moved like someone much younger. Her hair was gray, her face was lined, but her eyes were sharp and clear. She was the director of the Silent Archive, a position that did not exist in any government record. She reported to no president, no council, no committee. Her authority came from a source far older than any modern government. When Velthus finished his speech, Nahung smiled. It was a small smile, barely visible, but it was real. Behind her, the walls of the bunker hummed, as machines that had slept for centuries began to wake. A door opened, and Admiral Tejo walked in. He had taken a private shuttle from orbit, one that did not appear on any tracking system. He nodded to Na Young with the respect of an old friend. "It's time," he said. "I know." Na Young picked up a phone. It was not a modern device. It had no screen, no wireless connection. It was connected by wires to other phones in other bunkers, spread across the Earth and hidden among the stars. This network had existed since the day humanity signed the peace treaty. It had never been used until now. Na Young pressed a single button. Somewhere far away, another phone began to ring. Then another. Then 100 more. Then 1,000. "This is Archive 1, Na Young said, her voice calm and clear. "Authorization code, Sleeping Gods. I am activating Protocol Aurora. Repeat. I am activating Protocol Aurora. The long night is over. Wake the sleeping gods." She hung up the phone and looked at Tejo. "Admiral," she said, "would you like to see what 3,000 years of patience looks like?" Tejo smiled. It was the same smile that humans had worn when they first heard the declaration of war. It was a smile that held no fear, no despair, no surrender. It was a smile that said, "You have no idea what you have just started. Show me everything," he said, and deep beneath the earth, the lights came on. The bunker went deep, deeper than Tejo had ever imagined. They rode an elevator that dropped for almost 10 minutes. Passing through layers of rock and metal and secrets that had waited in darkness for 3,000 years, Na Young stood beside him, her hands folded behind her back. "Let me tell you a story," she said as they descended. "A story that no history book contains. It's a story that only 12 people on Earth know in full. You are about to become the 13th. The elevator stopped. The doors opened onto a hallway lit by soft white light. The walls were covered with images and words from a time long past. Tejo saw faces he did not recognize, names he had never heard, dates that stretched back to the very beginning of humanity's journey into space. 3,000 years ago, Na Young said as they walked, humanity made first contact with the Velith Dominion. You know this part. Every child learns it in school. Aliens came in peace. They offered us membership in the Galactic Accord. They promised protection, knowledge, and friendship. She stopped in front of a large image, showed a group of humans standing before a Velith delegation. The humans looked small and uncertain. Aliens towered over them like gods. "What the schools do not teach," Na Young continued, "is what happened after the camera stopped recording. The Velith were not kind. They were not generous. They looked at humanity and saw insects. Clever insects, perhaps. Amusing insects, but insects all the same." She walked on. Tejo followed. The treaty they offered was not a partnership. It was a cage. Humans were allowed to settle only on worlds that no other species wanted. We were forbidden from developing certain technologies. We were watched constantly, studied like animals in a zoo. The elder races expected us to stay small and grateful forever. They entered a large room. The walls were lined with screens showing data, images, and video recordings. In the center stood a statue of a man in military uniform. His face was stern but thoughtful. The nameplate at the base read, General Sung Ho, Architect of the Long Game. This man, Na Young said, saw the truth that others missed. He understood that the Accord would never accept humanity as equals. He knew that one day they would grow tired of us. One day, they would decide that humans were too dangerous, too unpredictable, too wild, and on that day they would try to destroy us. She touched a panel, and the screens came alive with information. Sung Ho proposed a plan, called it the Long Game. Humanity would pretend to accept its place as the weakest species in the galaxy. We would act humble. We would seem harmless. We would let the elder races believe that we were no threat to anyone. The screens showed images of human colonies. They looked simple and basic. Small cities, modest technology, nothing impressive. But beneath the surface, Nayang said, we would build. We would learn. We would prepare. Every piece of alien technology we encountered, we studied in secret. Every scientific principle they taught us, we improved upon in hidden laboratories. Every weakness in alien civilizations we recorded and remembered. Taeho stared at the screens. He saw underground factories producing weapons that had never appeared in any military database. He saw research stations hidden inside dead moons, where scientists worked on projects that should have been impossible. He saw generation after generation of humans dedicating their lives to a war that would not come in their lifetimes. 3,000 years, he said quietly. 3,000 years of pretending to be weak. 3,000 years of patience, Nayang corrected. The longest game ever played, and we played it perfectly. She led him to another room. This one was filled with medical equipment and genetic research data. A hologram showed the structure of human DNA, highlighted with thousands of modifications. Dr. Hanna made the discovery that changed everything, Na-Young explained. 800 years ago, she found that human brains are unique in the galaxy. Alien minds are specialized. They think in straight lines. They're very good at certain things, but they cannot easily learn new ways of thinking. Human minds are different. We are chaotic. We can hold two opposite ideas in our heads at the same time. We can imagine things that do not exist and then make them real. The aliens called this a flaw. Hana realized it was our greatest gift. The hologram changed, showing enhanced human soldiers. They moved faster than the eye could follow. They reacted before attacks even happened. They were still human, but they were also something more. We improved ourselves, Nayang said. Not just our technology, but our bodies and minds. We created soldiers who can think faster than alien computers can calculate. We built ships that move in ways alien physics says are impossible. We developed weapons that the elder races believe cannot exist. She smiled that small, knowing smile. For 3,000 years, the galaxy looked at humanity and saw children playing with toys. They never imagined that those children were building nuclear bombs in their basement. Taeho thought of the alien fleet gathering at the edge of human space. 4 million warships. The greatest military force ever assembled in galactic history. It was coming to crush humanity like an afterthought. Can we really win? He asked. Nayang did not answer immediately. She led him to a final room. The door opened onto a vast underground hangar. There, stretching into the darkness, were ships. Not the small, outdated vessels that humanity showed to the galaxy. These were warships unlike anything Taeho had ever seen. Their hulls seemed to shift and change as he watched. Their weapons' arrays glowed with energy that hurt his eyes to look at. There were thousands of them, tens of thousands. General Sung-ho died before he could see his plan completed, Nayang said. So did his children, and their children, and 100 generations after them. They all kept the faith. They all played their parts. They lived as servants so that we could rise as masters. She looked at Taeho with eyes that burned with 3,000 years of waiting. Can we win, Admiral? We already have. The aliens just do not know it yet. They think they are predators coming to hunt helpless prey. They are about to learn the truth. She gestured at the sleeping fleet. We were never the prey. We were always the hunters. We were just waiting for the right moment to show our teeth. 20 days remained until the deadline. Across human space, the awakening had begun. Lieutenant Commander Wu Jin stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, a patrol ship that had spent years guarding the outer edges of human territory. He had served on this vessel for 5 years. He thought he knew every corner of it, every system, every capability. He had been wrong, Commander Bora said from her station. Her voice was strange, almost excited. We just received new authorization codes from Fleet Command. They want us to unlock something called secondary configuration. Ujin frowned. I have never heard of secondary configuration.
Neither have I.
But the codes are valid. They came directly from Admiral Taeho. For a moment, Wujin hesitated. Then he nodded. Do it, Bara. Entered the codes. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then the ship began to change. The lights flickered. The deck vibrated beneath their feet. Panels in the walls slid open, revealing equipment that had been hidden for decades. New screens activated, showing systems that Wu Jin had never seen in any training manual. The familiar hum of the engines shifted to a deeper, more powerful sound. "What is happening?" a young officer named Kite asked. His eyes were wide with confusion and fear. Wu Jin watched as the eternal dawn transformed around him. The ship he had known was like a caterpillar that had finally become a butterfly. No, he thought. Not a butterfly. A dragon, I think, Wu Jin said slowly. We just found out what our ship really is. The same scene played out across 2,000 human worlds. Ships that had seemed old and weak revealed their true forms. Space stations that had appeared to be simple trading posts powered up weapon systems that could crack moons. Colony planets activated defense networks that had been sleeping beneath their surfaces for centuries. On the agricultural world of New Busan, farmers watched in amazement as the hills outside their town split open. From beneath the green grass rose towers of gleaming metal, each one holding enough firepower to destroy an alien battle fleet. "My grandfather helped build those," an old woman said to her grandson. "He told me they were water purification systems. He lied to me for 60 years. She was crying, but she was also smiling. He lied to everyone, she said, so that today could happen." High Commander Velthus received the reports on his flagship, the Eternal Judgment. The crystalline being studied the data with growing confusion. Human energy signatures were changing across their territory. Ships were appearing that had not existed in any database. Weapons were activating that should have been impossible. "This is an error," Velthus said. "Run the scans again." His officers ran the scans again and again. The results were the same each time. "High Commander," one of his advisors said carefully, "appears that the humans have been hiding significant military capabilities. Our initial estimates of their strength may have been incorrect." "Incorrect by how much?" The advisor hesitated. "We are still calculating. But preliminary analysis suggests that human military power may be at least 100 times greater than we believed." 100 times. Velthus felt something cold move through his crystalline body. It was an emotion he had not experienced in a very long time. "Doubt no matter," he said, forcing confidence into his voice. "Even if they have hidden some weapons, they cannot match the combined might of 12 species. The Accord fleet will crush them regardless." But as he spoke, new reports arrived. Human ships were not just appearing. They were moving in formations that made no sense. They were generating energy readings that violated known physics. They were communicating using methods that alien sensors could not intercept. On Earth, Director Na Young stood before a gathering of humanity's leaders. Presidents, generals, admirals, and scientists filled the underground chamber. Many of them had learned the truth only in the past few days. They were still struggling to understand the scale of what had been hidden from them. "Ladies and gentlemen," Na Young said, "you have all been briefed on Protocol Aurora. You know now what your predecessors built in secret. You know the sacrifices that generations before us made. The question before us is simple. Are we ready to use what they gave us?" Admiral Tejo stepped forward. His uniform was different now. It bore symbols that had not been worn by any human officer in 3,000 years. The symbols of the true human military, the one that had waited in shadow. "We have 10 days until the alien deadline," Tejo said. "We will not wait that long. In 6 days, the enemy fleet will reach the Kepler threshold, the gateway to our core systems. They expect to find a token defense force. They expect easy victory. They will find neither." He looked around the room at the faces of humanity's leaders. For 3,000 years, our ancestors carried a burden. They lived as servants, pretending to be weak, knowing they would never see the day of freedom. They did this for us. They sacrificed their pride, their honor, their dignity, all so that we could stand here today with the power to choose our own fate. His voice grew stronger. "I say we choose to fight. I say we show the galaxy what humanity really is. Not the harmless children they believed us to be. Not the insects they planned to crush. We are the descendants of survivors. We are the children of warriors. We are the heirs of 3,000 years of patience and preparation. He raised his fist. We are human, and we will never kneel. The chamber erupted in cheers. Across human space, the message spread. Soldiers put on their armor. Pilots boarded their ships. Scientists activated their weapons. 3,000 years of waiting ended in a single moment of fierce determination. The aliens wanted war. Humanity was ready to give them one they would never forget. The Kepler threshold was a point in space where the fabric of reality grew thin. Ships could travel faster there, making it the perfect gateway for invasion. For millennia, it had been neutral territory. Now it would become a graveyard. The alien armada arrived in waves of metal and fire. 50,000 warships from the Velith Dominion and its allies. They were the first wave sent to clear the path for the millions that would follow. Their commanders expected no real resistance. Human space was supposed to be defended by fewer than 5,000 vessels. This would not be a battle. It would be a slaughter. Admiral Tejo watched them come from the bridge of the Silent Fury, humanity's true flagship. The ship was massive, twice the size of anything the aliens had ever seen from human hands. Its hull was black as the void between stars, and it moved with a grace that seemed to mock the laws of physics. Around the Silent Fury, only 200 human vessels held formation. The aliens saw this and laughed. Their laughter echoed across communication channels, picked up by human sensors. They think we are fools, Kite reported from his station aboard the Eternal Dawn, which flew alongside the flagship. Their commanders are not even raising full shields. They believe this will be over in minutes. Wu Jin stood at the command console, his hands steady despite the fear in his heart. 200 ships against 50,000. The numbers were impossible. But he had seen what his own vessel could do now. He had trained with its true systems for 6 days straight. He knew that nothing about this battle would be what the aliens expected. All ships. Admiral Tejo's voice came through the fleet communication network. This is not a fight for survival. This is a lesson. For 3,000 years, the elder races taught us that we were small. Today, we teach them that they were wrong. All ships, engage. The human fleet moved. Later, the aliens who survived would struggle to describe what they saw. Human ships did not fly like ships were supposed to fly. They seemed to flicker in and out of existence, appearing in multiple places at once. They turned at angles that should have torn them apart. They accelerated and stopped in ways that ignored every law of motion. The eternal. Dawn dove into the heart of the alien formation. Around Wu Jin, the bridge crew worked with perfect focus. Their enhanced reflexes allowing them to react faster than any alien targeting computer could track. Enemy weapons fired at where they had been, but they were already somewhere else. Fire pattern 7, Wu Jin ordered. The ship's weapons spoke. Beams of energy cut through alien hulls like sunlight through fog. Missiles that should not have been able to penetrate alien shields passed through them as if they did not exist. One human ship destroyed 10 alien vessels in the time it took to draw a breath on the surface of a nearby planet. The ground battle was just as one-sided. Sergeant Yunbai led her squad through fields of alien soldiers. The enemy had landed ground forces expecting to meet farmers and civilians. Instead, they met warriors who had been bred and trained for this moment. Bai moved so fast that alien eyes could not follow her. Her rifle fired with perfect accuracy, each shot finding its target before the enemy even knew she was there. Her squad spread out around her, quote, each soldier a weapon of precise destruction. An alien commander screamed orders into his communication device. Target the fast one. Kill the fast one. But his soldiers could not target what they could not see. Bai was already behind them, among them, everywhere and nowhere at once. Human biology had been enhanced to its absolute limit. Human training had been perfected over 3,000 years. What the aliens faced was not an army. It was a force of nature. In space, the alien fleet began to collapse. Ships that had entered the battle laughing were now screaming for help. Their formations fell apart as they tried to track enemies that moved like ghosts. They fired at each other in confusion, their own weapons doing as much damage as human attacks. High Commander Velthus watched the battle from his command ship. Far from the front lines, his crystalline form flickered with colors that his officers had never seen before. Fear, rage, disbelief. How is this possible? He demanded. Their ships are smaller. Their fleet is tiny. How are they winning? No one could answer him. The tactical displays showed impossible data. Human ships were surviving hits that should have destroyed them. Human weapons were penetrating shields that should have been impenetrable. Human soldiers were moving faster than alien eyes could see, for hours after the battle began. It ended. 50,000 alien warships became 50,000 fields of floating debris. The human fleet had lost 7 vessels. 7. Every crew was recovered alive. The alien survivors retreated in chaos. Their communications filled with screams and prayers and desperate pleas for reinforcement. They had expected to crush insects. They had met giants. Admiral Tahoe stood on the bridge of the Silent Fury and looked out at the wreckage of the enemy fleet. Beside him, Director Nyang watched with quiet satisfaction. "Send a message to High Commander Velthus," Tahoe said. "One sentence only. What shall I send?" Tahoe smiled. It was the smile that humans had worn since the war began. The smile that said, "We knew. We always knew. Send this. The lesson begins." Across the galaxy, the message was received. The Velith Dominion and its allies gathered their remaining forces. 4 million warships still waited to attack. But now, for the first time in the history of the Galactic Accord, the elder races felt something they had never felt before. They felt afraid of humans, and deep in their ancient hearts, they began to understand that they had made a terrible mistake. The war lasted 6 months. It should have lasted centuries. The alien alliance had numbers, experience, and the combined knowledge of civilizations that had existed since before humans learned to use fire. None of it mattered. Human fleets moved through alien space like water through sand. They did not conquer. They did not destroy worlds or slaughter civilians. They simply demonstrated again and again that they could not be stopped. Every battle told the same story. Alien admirals entered with confidence and retreated with terror. Alien soldiers who had never known defeat learned what it meant to face an enemy they could not understand. Alien scientists studied human technology and found it made no sense. Human ships should not work. Human weapons should not function. Human soldiers should not exist. And yet they did. The great homeworld of the Velith Dominion had stood untouched for 12 million years. No enemy had ever reached its orbit. No hostile ship had ever threatened its people. That changed on the 163rd day of the war. High Commander. Velthos stood in his palace and watched human ships fill the sky. There were thousands of them, dark shapes against the stars, surrounding his world like a closed fist. His fleets were scattered and broken. His allies had surrendered one by one. He was alone. A message came through on his personal channel. It was Admiral Tahoe. "High Commander," the human said. "I believe we have something to discuss." They met on the Silent Fury. Velthus transported aboard with only 2 guards. Knowing that even 1,000 guards would make no difference, he had seen what human soldiers could do. He had no more illusions about his power. The human flagship was vast and silent. Its corridors were dimly lit, its walls covered with symbols and images that Velthus did not understand. Human crew members watched him pass with expressions that held no hatred, no anger, only a calm and patient confidence that disturbed him more than any threat could have. Admiral Tahoe waited in a simple room with a simple table and 2 chairs. Director Nyang stood beside him. They did not rise when Velthus entered. They did not bow or show respect. They simply looked at him with those strange human eyes. Velthus sat. The chair was too small for his crystalline form, but he managed. Pride demanded that he not complain. "How?" he asked. It was the only question that mattered. "How did you hide this from us? Our sensors watched every human world. Our spies walked among your people. Our psychics read your surface thoughts. We saw nothing. We suspected nothing. How?" Tahoe looked at Nyang. She stepped forward. You saw what you wanted to see, she said. You looked at humanity and saw a young species, divided and chaotic, too busy fighting among itself to be a threat. You were right about one thing. We were divided. We did fight among ourselves, but you never asked why. Veltha said nothing. He waited. Every war we fought made us stronger, Nyan continued. Every crisis we survived taught us new lessons. Every time we fell, we learned how to rise higher. You thought our conflicts were weakness. They were training. You thought our short lives made us foolish. They made us urgent. You thought our emotions made us unstable. They made us determined. She leaned forward, her eyes bright with 3,000 years of hidden fury. Your species evolved in perfect environments. You became powerful because nothing challenged you. We evolved on a world of ice ages and plagues, of earthquakes and storms, of predators and disasters. Every day of human existence was a battle for survival. We did not just survive. We learned to love the struggle. Peace made you soft. It made us hungry. Velthus felt something crack inside his ancient heart. For the first time in his immortal existence, he understood that he was looking at something greater than himself. What did he want? He asked quietly. Teho answered, The Galactic Accord is finished. The old ways are dead. In their place, we will build something new. A true partnership of species based on respect and equality. Humanity will not rule. We do not want to be what you were, but we will protect. We will guide. We will make sure that no species ever again threatens another with extinction. He stood and looked down at the ancient alien. You have two choices, High Commander. You can accept this new order and work with us to build a better galaxy. Or you can refuse and watch your civilization crumble into dust while humanity moves forward without you. Choose. Velthus looked at the human. He saw no mercy in those eyes. But he also saw no cruelty. These creatures were not monsters. They were simply something the galaxy had never encountered before. A species that had learned patience without losing hunger. A species that had hidden strength without losing ambition. A species that had played the longest game in history. And won, except Velthus said 6 months later. The galaxy had changed beyond recognition. Alien diplomats flooded human stations, eager to learn human science, human philosophy, human art. Species that had ignored humanity for millennia now sought human teachers and human partners. The old order of the Accord gave way to a new age of cooperation. On the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, Lieutenant Commander Wu Jin stood at the viewing window and watched ships from a dozen species passing by. Alien and human vessels flew together, their crews working side by side. First Officer Biora joined him. Do you think they will ever forgive us? She asked. For the deception? Wu Jin thought about the question. He thought about his grandfather, who had served on this same ship decades ago, never knowing what it really was. He thought about all the generations who had lived and died keeping the secret, who had pretended to be weak so that their descendants could be strong. Forgiveness is not the point, he said finally. Respect is. In respect, they are finally learning. He looked out at the stars, at the galaxy that now looked to humanity for guidance and protection. 3,000 years of patience. 3,000 years of preparation. 3,000 years of playing. The role of the fool while sharpening the sword in. Secret, the aliens had asked for war. Humanity had given them a future. Instead, in somewhere in the eternal darkness between stars, the spirit of General Sung Ho smiled. His long game was complete. His children had risen, and humanity would never bow again.